Welcome to Transalliance's Show and Tell, episode 4, where we talk about some of the things we're keeping an eye on here in Miami and around the country. Just for my show and tell today, if you're not subscribed to our newsletter, that's where all of the things that we're working on tend to show up during the course of the week. So if you weren't a part of our webinar, we have the recording. Streets for Social Distancing, we have some major updates on that, and accessible testing for all, we have updates on that as well, which Maria will share today. So if you're not subscribed, it's transalliance.miami/subscribe. Get it every week. And onwards to you, Maria.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So I'm going to share my screen. Let's see. So over the weekend, the Miami Herald put out a story reporting on the first walk-through testing site that's going to be opening up in Miami-Dade, more specifically in North Miami.
Hold on, but Maria, you need to tell us about the tiger first.
Yes.
I was just going to say, the tiger is unrelated to the walk-through testing site. But I mean, since apparently pets can also contract COVID, I mean, this is important. But no, so this has been related to something that we have been advocating for at Transit Alliance, specifically for households that don't own a vehicle. We think it's really important to increase the number of testing sites that are available for people that don't own a car. So we're very happy to see this, and a special shout out to Commissioner Monestein's office for doing a lot of great work to get this site open. So hopefully we see some more sites opening up in the next couple of weeks.
Cool. Yeah, it is great that Miami has its first accessible test site. And as there's this increasing consciousness of the need for widespread testing and also more data that's coming out, for example, that 90,000 households in Miami-Dade County do not have a car. And there are commission districts that over 20% of their households don't have a car. So this is just something that's going to become increasingly important. Every time you hear a politician have a conversation about, we need to reopen our economy and we need to get back to normal, the first thought in your mind is, well, we also need widespread testing, and how is that being rolled out across our county? Any other thoughts, guys?
I mean, it's just good to see. I'm just wondering how it's going to get rolled out, and if this is if this means like the conversation that's being had amongst us is actually being heard. It's just really nice to see that, like, maybe, just maybe, like, these voices are reaching the top where they need to be. So we're going in the right direction.
And what's the latest for big cats and COVID anyway? I'm just curious. Does anyone know?
No further updates.
I thought cats can get infected with COVID. I thought cats were like, yes, they can. Dogs no.
I'm pretty sure the tiger tested positive, which I guess the tiger got tested. Yeah, the tiger could get a walk-up test now. You can get a car.
You're gonna walk your pet.
This episode
all-inclusive testing.
All-inclusive, I like it. Okay, Marcia.
Cats, dogs. All right, so I'm just gonna talk about something that's been making the rounds, and many of you may already have heard of, which is Milan. Oh my God, my screen. Okay, here we go. And Milan was actually, or is actually, one of the most polluted cities in all of Europe. It was actually the most polluted city in Europe in 2008. And with all of this COVID-19, lack of movement, less cars on the road, they've seen a reduction of 30 to 75% in traffic. And with that, they've seen decreased levels of pollution in Milan. And because of this, and because of the new reality of people not wanting to go on public transportation, they have decided that in 2020, they are going to build 22 miles of bike lanes. They're gonna widen their pavements for pedestrians. They're gonna do a 20-mile-per-hour speed limit, 20 is plenty type of thing. And then they're going to create some pedestrian and bike priority zones all over the city. And part of what they're talking about is, like, they used to think about their 10-year plan for 2030, but this whole crisis has forced them to think about it in terms of what can we do today? Like, let's stop thinking of the future. Like, what can we do right now? And then some other cities I just wanted to point out have also seen decreasing pollution. So this is Venice, that now has clear waters to the point where they've seen some dolphins going around. We have cities like New Delhi in India where, like, the decrease in pollution is drastic. And then, closer to home, cities like LA, which recently was one of the cleanest cities worldwide, usually it's one of the dirtiest. So that is my show and tell for today. It's just the little side effects of this crisis, and what can we learn from it moving forward.
You know, with all of these cities doing all of this amazing things in terms of bike lanes and transit priority, it kind of makes me wish that advocacy could be done remotely. Like, I love Miami, but imagine if we could advocate from all these cities that are just doing such these amazing things and still advocate for things in Miami. With all of us working remotely, I mean, it's not a odd reality to think about.
Yeah, not really. I mean, like, I would care to see bike lanes in Atlanta if there was like, if I had a say in it, why not? Or like Orlando, or, you know, if you need to be able to advocate for this stuff nationwide, if there were like some forum to do that, if there was some like forum for advocates from all over the country to kind of like get together and start like doing little support advocacy campaigns for like specific things in each other's city, that'd be neat. Little support network group, advocacy support network.
Advocates Anonymous.
I mean, actually.
Isn't that what this call is, though? And our chapter meetings pretty much is Advocates Anonymous. It's a support group for all of us and all of our woes with living in a place where we feel like we're just not making enough progress, and then seeing all these other places that are making so much progress, especially during such a challenging time for their societies, their economies, everything.
Yeah, well, to me, this is like a true portrayal of good leadership. Also, like, you see all of the cities where leaders are just taking a stance and they really see the value in doing all of these changes and what it can bring to their community, not only health-wise, but also, you know, when they're thinking of the economy and like, how do we bounce back from this? Like, what are all the things that we can put in place? And well, I don't know.
Yeah,
Miami sometimes can be a little disappointing.
I think it's a part of the domino effect that we're probably seeing, like what we were just talking about. It's like we see what other advocacy groups doing around the world have kind of been pushing for a while. And then like the governments that are implementing these plans, they're kind of piggybacking off of each other and seeing what they're doing. But it's like, if we could accelerate that by being like, all right, like, let's all follow the good ideas and the best practices that we all are seeing popping up everywhere, we could probably hop onto this train as well. It's nice to see, man.
Tell us about what we're hopping onto, Derek. Over to you.
Oh, snap. Oh, yeah. So my thing is kind of a little history trip, which seems to be a trend with me. But
Derek's history segment is pretty much a recurring show and tell.
History is so neat. But today I'm talking about a cycle path, a cycle highway, actually, that was going to be built in LA in 1900. So around the turn of the 20th century, there was this giant boom in cycling. And it was mostly by affluent people. It was kind of like a leisure activity. So in that, they decided to build some infrastructure to support this habit, right? So they were going to build a 9-mile elevated cycle path, which at its highest point was going to be elevated like 50 feet in the air. And this thing was going to go across like Pasadena through like Orange County. And they only ended up building 1.3 miles of it. But it just got me thinking. We think about these cities like Copenhagen that have these like crazy bicycle networks and stuff like that. And then we think about what we're doing here with stuff like the underline stuff. And I don't know, like we can kind of, these are more pictures of it. This is like elevated bicycle path. It's neat, right? And that's the little toll booth you can see in the corner right here where you have to pay to get in. But yeah, just had me thinking we could kind of be ambitious because we kind of think like people that do things like that are like a visionary or looking to the future. But in reality, we've been doing this stuff for a while, you know? This is stuff that we've already thought to do. And I guess now that we have this big, like, new cycling craze coming up or coming over again, it's like, maybe it's time to start getting back into these wild ideas, which also had me thinking about this thing that Xavier Suarez brought up a long time ago. This right here was a part of his, like, planned idea for the South Dade Transitway. And as you can see, there's, like, an elevated bicycle path next to the metro rail, which, again, ambitious. We should, not to say it's a great idea. I have no real opinion on it, but it's an ambitious idea. And I think we can get back to thinking like that once we're starting to implement like bicycle master plans throughout the county and stuff like that. So yeah, that's my show on time.
Yeah, it's interesting. Also, as a city that has so many water bodies around, like you have the bay and then you have all of these rivers, you have so many other places where when you have this sort of situation, when you have large bodies of water like rivers or bays, you have exclusive pedestrian and cycle bridges. That is not for cars, that is just for pedestrians and cyclists. The most recent one that I went across, I think, was in Nashville, which was just outstanding and amazing and just such a wonderful way to experience your city. Like here we have places like the Venetian Causeway right now that are sort of an interesting example where you have very little car traffic right now. It pretty much has become a cyclist and pedestrian bridge as a side effect of this crisis. And it's interesting that in Miami, the only context in which we think about pedestrian bridges is when we need to, as a last resort, to save people from getting killed on the road. Totally the opposite context of what you just talked about, right?
Yeah.
Any other thoughts, guys?
Well, to me, I'm a little hopeful that this increase in cyclists and pedestrians on the road, and it really is a dramatic increase. There are people out there who would never go on the road, would kind of calm down the fears that politicians have, because I fear a lot of this decision making here in Miami comes out of fear. It's like no one bikes. It's too hot to bike. It's too hot to walk. It's a cultural thing that people love their cars. This is never going to work here. I'm not going to, back this up. And it's very fear driven. And maybe, hopefully, seeing all of the people out there that are willing to do all of these things when the environment allows it will give them a little bit of political courage to push for different things and different mobility options once this whole crisis is over.
Cool. All right, guys, if that's it, remember to subscribe to our newsletter, but also if you want to support us, please become a patron. It's just $2 a month. You're probably not even going to your coffee shop right now. So what are you doing with those extra $2? You can give it to Transalliance at transalliance.miami/join. Thank you for your support. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.